It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song.
All right, it's time for our gun truth of the week.
Gun truth of the week. Every week, we bring you a fact or some kind of information about gun ownership or the Second Amendment that you're not going to hear on the 6 o'clock news, you're not going to hear in the mainstream media, but we want you to know so that you can have the conversations with people and tell them the truth about gun ownership. This week's gun truth of the week is, according to a large-scale survey by Georgetown University that actually had over 54,000 respondents, defensive gun use, which can be brandishing or even a verbal warning, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're pulling the trigger, is actually higher among black and Hispanic gun owners than white gun owners. Black gun owners, 44.3% reported defensive use compared to Hispanic gun owners at about 39%, white gun owners at 29%, Asian at 26%, and American Indian at 47.7%. This suggests that when minorities legally own firearms, they're more likely to use them defensively, underscoring how legal gun ownership can be a critical tool when it comes to self-protection in communities that may experience higher vulnerability or lower confidence in institutional protection. This goes alongside with another significant trend, which is the growth of minority-led organizations promoting safe and legal gun ownership. A notable example is the National African American Gun Association. This was founded in 2015, so it's relatively new. The NAAGA now has over 45,000 members. They have over 75 chapters nationwide. In Memphis, the local NAAGA chapter, called the 901 Brothers Sisters Keeper, focuses on empowering black women and children with firearm safety training and self-defense education. These chapters play a vital role in the community by providing legal knowledge, training, and empowerment, demonstrating how firearms ownership can be a responsibility integrated into minority self-advocacy. We've definitely seen this in San Diego, and I think it's an extremely important part of Second Amendment advocacy. And I think that the narrative that's pushed is the exact opposite of what the facts bear out by an organization like Georgetown University, not exactly a pro-Second Amendment organization, right? So I think this is something particularly interesting and an opportunity for pro-Second Amendment advocacy. I think that, whether or not you agree politically in other places with, minority communities, whatever that minority community is, this is an opportunity for you to show something that you agree with that community on. Or maybe if you're a part of that community, it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, I understand your concerns. I understand your plight. And this is something that I think is important to your safety. I think it's important to the community in general. There's a lot of really good reasons that all kinds of different communities that maybe aren't necessarily normally thought of as being pro-Second Amendment to get into gun ownership. A lot of people say, or a lot of the communities say that, hey, they're underappreciated, or they're in an elevated level of threat compared to other communities. Okay, no need to argue with that. If that's their reality or if that's their perception, fantastic. I think you should be a gun owner. If you feel that you are in a position of elevated danger and you need to be protected, then great, let's show you how. And the Second Amendment is, of course, all about the most effective self-defense tool ever invented, which is, of course, the gun. So as we say all the time, get a gun, get training, get a permit, and carry everywhere you go. There we go.
One thing I found interesting, do you remember the day or the year that your brain went, I need to do this? Like, what year was that? I know when the organization started, San Diego County Gunners, but when did you be like, this needs to happen?
The organization needs to happen, or gun ownership needs to happen in my personal life? When did I first figure out I need to buy a gun, or when did I start San Diego County Gun Owners?
Well, here's where I'm going with this.
Sure.
So I'm just kind of, as you were speaking, I was reading this whole information here about the in AAGA, NAAGA.
Yep.
They were founded in 2015. I'm thinking, is that likely around the same time frame that you kind of are like, this organization needs to be a thing?
It's the same year.
That's why I'm like, as I'm saying, I'm like, what was happening? So this is clearly not in California.
Yeah.
I just find that interesting. There's yet another organization that is pro Second Amendment, pro self-defense, pro supporting people, almost like it.
I think that's a good point. I see what you're saying, and I think in the 2010s, a lot of things had come to a head. Mm-hmm. It was the Heller versus DC and then McDonald had both come out from the Supreme Court. So they said, hey, it is an individual right, and the states do have to respect that individual right. Mm-hmm. So I think that created a lot of context. But there were also states like Florida that started to say, hey, we're just going to be shall issue. We're going to start issuing permits, and that had a domino effect too. Also, I think that there was a feeling that, right around that year, there was a feeling that maybe the Second Amendment organizations weren't serving modern interests, that there was still kind of a good old boy, we're going to go hunting, kind of attitude where, there's nothing wrong with hunting, and there's still a lot of hunters that are pro Second Amendment. But I think that things were transitioning from a rural hunting tradition to an urban or suburban self-defense need. And, there was a vacuum of leadership in that way. I think a lot of groups popped up right around that time. A few years earlier, FPC popped up, SAF started making changes right around that time. NRA was going through a tough spot, and it looks like they're kind of coming out of that tough spot.
Right.
But I think you're right. I think right around mid 2010s was a little bit of a watershed year when it comes to Second Amendment, and very much a transitional decade when it comes to Second Amendment, or at least advocacy.
Remember that we are not lawyers, and nothing that we say is to be taken as legal advice. Our sponsor, John Dillon, is a lawyer, and he has been helping to fight those gun violence restraining orders, GVROs, and more. So if you know somebody that's had their self-defense rights taken away without due process, give John a call. His website is dillonlawgp.com, and his phone number is 760-642-7150.
Okay, activism at work. Got a really cool story for you. So the city of Vista, their city council. Vista is a town in northern San Diego County. And I think there's something like 55,000 people, 60,000 people in Vista. It's a nice little town. They have a great little city council. They're one of the 18 city councils in San Diego. And I got a call from the mayor, John Franklin. John Franklin is someone that we've endorsed. He's actually running for county board to replace Jim Desmond, and we've already endorsed him in that. And I think this is a good example of why we endorsed him so early. He called up and said, hey, you know what? Our safety committee has passed or is recommending that we pass a resolution in favor of AB 1127. Now, what does all that mean? Well, the safety committee is like the junior city council. A lot of city councils have committees full of people that are generally appointed by the city council, and they kind of do the footwork on some of these decisions, and maybe they fast track something, or maybe they deny something, or maybe they require more information before it goes in front of the city council. In this situation, the safety committee actually fast-tracked a resolution saying, hey, we as a city, the city of Vista, want the state of California to pass AB 1127. Now, AB 1127 is an extremist piece of legislation when it comes to gun regulation. It will, in effect, ban every single Glock, every make or every model of Glock by Glock, and some designs that aren't even by Glock. It doesn't specifically name Glock, but what it does is it describes a piece that of the guts of Glock. You know, it describes a piece that makes Glock work and says, hey, if it has this, then it's illegal in the state of California. You can't buy it or sell it. You know, it'll poof, go away. And that's pretty extreme. You know, there's nothing reasonable about an entire ban. So John Franklin called up and said, hey, you know, I know this thing's bad. I want to learn more about it. And I need some ammo to talk about exactly why this is such an extremist bill. So we actually came up with a one-pager on AB 1127 that explains exactly why AB 1127 is so bad. And the one-pager is, we're actually going to display it, and it came out in our email this week, and we'll make sure that it's available to you. But it talks about what AB 1127 aims to do. It aims to ban semi-automatic pistols that can be easily, quote-unquote, converted to fully automatic by installing a device known as a Glock switch. Now, a Glock switch is something that isn't sold in stores. It's manufactured, it's made by criminals in order to do a criminal act. It's illegal to convert your semi-automatic Glock with a Glock switch to a fully automatic Glock. And again, it doesn't actually mention, the bill doesn't mention the word Glock, but what it targets is a piece of a Glock, the internals of a Glock, called a cruciform-shaped trigger bar striker interface. Basically, there's a piece that makes Glock go boom that is in the shape of a cross. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there, armorers and people that know a lot about guns, that are, you know, shouting at me, that's not, you know, it's not exactly, and here's what it actually does, and whatever. I'm trying to explain this to people who aren't armorers, you know, that are, for Glock. But there's basically a piece inside Glock that helps, you know, make Glock work, that is basically in the shape of a cross. So we came up with this one pager. We said, yep, this thing's bad, John. You're absolutely right. Jeff Fox is also somebody that we helped get on the city council, and we made sure that he got this one pager too and had a conversation with him. And we went on to explain, why is this bill problematic? Well, the one pager talks about how the bill threatens to ban the most popular and widely trusted self-defense handgun in California and, frankly, in the world, which are Glock pistols. But it's not just limited to Glock pistols. There are actually a number of other manufacturers that have at least one firearm that also have a similar part. Some people would call them Glock clones. Like Palmetto State Armory has one, Zev Technologies, Lone Wolf, ZRO, Delta. Ruger even has a particular pistol that has this cruciform-shaped trigger bar. We pointed out the fact that, hey, they're making something illegal that's already illegal. In other words, this Glock switch is already illegal. And, you know, criminals deciding to take something that is made for legal purposes, that is used for self-defense by sane, trained, law-abiding, peaceable people, you know, it doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense at all that we're banning the design of a product because criminals have decided to use it in a criminal way. So we came up with this one pager. The mayor went to the city manager and said, hey, we're pulling this off of what's called the consent list. And basically what the consent list is it's fast tracking, you know, a regulation or a, you know, resolution or something like that. It's basically when one of these committees decides that, yeah, this thing is exactly what we want, it gets fast tracked so that the city council basically rubber stamps it. But if you have somebody in place like John Franklin, like Jeff Fox, who recognizes this thing and reaches out to San Diego County gun owners or a similar Second Amendment group and says, hey, I'm pretty concerned about this, and we say, yep, you should be, and here's why, then we can pull this thing off. You know, the last thing we want is for any city, especially a nice city like Vista, to say, yeah, we do want this extremist piece of legislation. We do want to ban the most popular self-defense tool, not just in California, but in the world, So I wanted to take a second to do a candidate profile. John Franklin, we wanted to talk about, this is a pretty obvious pro-Second Amendment action that he took here. But John Franklin is somebody that we've endorsed and that we've talked to and interviewed with and vetted. And so we wanted to talk about and just give you the pluses and minuses. So John Franklin was on the City Council of Vista, and now he's the mayor of Vista. And, of course, he's running for the County Board of Supervisors. The County Board of Supervisors is like the City Council for the entire county. So this is a step up. His reach, his constituents will increase by this, which is part of the reason we exist. We know that people start out on a small border council, work their way to a bigger border council, and then eventually find their way into Sacramento or Washington, D.C. So we want to catch them early and make sure that they're pro-Second Amendment. So what are some of the pluses with John Franklin? Well, he's endorsed by San Diego County gun owners. Well, that's great, but that kind of begs the question, right? He's good at Second Amendment because we endorsed him because he's good on Second Amendment, right? Well, that's kind of a circular thing. But why did we endorse him? Well, years ago, before we could get CCWs and went back when they had good cause, and not only did they have good cause, but the sheriff had an extremely high bar for what counted as good cause, he actually helped us with CCWs with the previous sheriff. Sheriff Gore didn't want to issue. He actually sat down and talked with them. He agreed with us on CCWs. He even talked about appointing a police chief in Vista. Now, they actually use the sheriff for their law enforcement. They don't have a police department. But we actually had a conversation and started talking about the idea of appointing a single person to be the police chief of Vista. And basically their entire responsibility would be to issue CCWs to the people of Vista. That's how committed he was to the idea of making sure that people could get CCWs. Fantastic interviews. When we interview him, and you can go back and look at some of the interviews we've done, he clearly understands the true purpose of the Second Amendment, the history of the Second Amendment, and he's unafraid when it comes to talking about the Second Amendment. He doesn't kind of go, gee, golly, gosh, it's tradition or whatever. He talks about how it's important for people to defend themselves. It's a part of the Constitution, and it's something that we should cherish. And I got to tell you, half the battle with politicians is just getting them to stand up for something we agree with. It's not enough for them just to agree with us. They actually have to do something about it. And John has time and time again. He actually hosted a shoot for San Diego County gun owners. He said, hey, let's go to an outdoor range and let's have a day of shooting and camaraderie and education. And he actually has another one coming up in October, which we'll talk more about. He actually let me shoot his M14. He had an M14. I think that's an important, part of being a pro-Second Amendment candidate and, somebody in office is that they actually own a firearm, especially one as cool as his. And then, of course, his anti-stance with 1127. AB 1127 is horrible. He quickly recognized it, understood it, and then contacted San Diego County gun owners. Really appreciate that in a candidate. So what are some of the minuses? Frankly, we don't have any for John. He's really good at what he does. He's well connected in the political world, and he's well versed when it comes to pro-Second Amendment causes. This is somebody we want to get behind. This is somebody that started off in the world of politics, got elected to a city council, got elected as mayor, now going, hopefully with our help, to County Board of Supervisor. Who knows how much further he'll go. But this is the kind of thing that you can do. Does it provide immediate satisfaction? No, it's more of a medium term and especially a long-term plan. But John Franklin is somebody that has earned our support. He's not somebody that you may have heard of because, he's not on the national level yet. He's not on the state level yet. But he's somebody right here in our backyard. He's somebody that we can volunteer for and fight for and help and actually have an effect. So there you go. That's what happened in activism this week in San Diego. We helped the city of Vista reject a resolution that would have been in support of AB 1127, the Glock ban, and a lot of it was thanks to their mayor, John Franklin, and, of course, one of their other city council members named Jeff Fox. Okay, we want to tell you where you can make a difference and what you can do, especially here locally in San Diego, to get involved in the Second Amendment community. There's a lot of things coming up. First thing we want to talk about is Massad Ayoob is returning in September. Massad Ayoob, of course, is a legend in the Second Amendment community and when it comes to training. September 4th and 5th is the live fire class. It's at Lemon Grove Rod and Gun Club. You register through Gun Owners Radio. And then he's also going to do September 6th and 7th a classroom, a 2-day classroom right here in San Diego in the Mira Mesa area. And, of course, you register and pay for that with at Gun Owners Radio as well. And that's thanks to our friend, the classroom. Thanks to our friend Aaron Petroff at Living Legacy for hosting the classroom training again. The live fire class is $620 for the 2-day live fire class, and then the classroom is $500 for the 2-day lecture. I got to tell you, the live fire is amazing. Don't miss out on your opportunity to do live fire with Massad Ayoob. But even if you do, that classroom is the session where you learn, all kinds of different things about lethal force and what to do after the fight, and all the advice he gives over the 2-day seminar is extremely valuable. So no matter how good you are with a gun, I can guarantee you're going to learn something extremely valuable in his lecture. So definitely sign up for that. There's a lot more room in the classroom than there is on the live fire range. So if you're interested in live fire, sign up for that ASAP. You're also invited to a welcome dinner on September 3rd at 6 p.m. at Elijah's. So get your tickets now. Go to gunownersradio.com, and that's where you buy tickets. And there's more. Pew Pew Crew Perk Alert. Train hard, stay sharp, and stand up for your Second Amendment rights. Join the Pew Pew Crew right here on YouTube, Gun Owners Radio, our exclusive club for gun enthusiasts who value truth over anti-gun nonsense. As a member, you'll unlock premium content, get insider access to behind-the-scenes action, and support the only show that fiercely defends your rights with a little side of humor. Sign up today and become part of the crew that's got your back. And this month, we're hooking up one lucky Pew Pew Crew member with a free month from West Coast Kinetic Solutions. They are a local instructor here in town. They do a fantastic job. And your membership, if you win, will include free firearms training and courses. It'll include 50% off San Diego CCW permit training, free CCW renewal, free private classes and coaching, 30% off partner courses, free home defense training, threat assessment of your area and local law enforcement. So don't just sit there. Hit that join button on YouTube, join the Pew Pew Crew, become a proud member of the Gun Owners Radio Pew Pew Crew, and man, it could really, really pay off, especially if you win that cool prize. Next thing we want to talk about is the Prepared Protector First Aid for Gun Owners. That's August 23rd. That's in El Cajon. The price is $281. Let's be real. You're far more likely to need and use first aid skills versus your quick draw skills. That's what this does for you. Get the training, get the gear, get the confidence knowing you're prepared. Sign up today to take the First Aid for Gun Owners class, August 23rd. Right here in San Diego. Actually, it's in El Cajon at Cargo. So we spoke with Michael from Cargo today earlier. So check that out, sign up, and get involved. Okay, our next guest is Adam Kraut. He's with SAF, Second Amendment Foundation. Second Amendment Foundation is a fantastic Second Amendment organization with a lot of history and a lot of victories under their belt. And Adam Kraut is their executive director, and he is also the man in charge when it comes to Gun Rights Policy Conference. We've been talking about Gun Rights Policy Conference in Salt Lake City in September, and we wanted to have him come on and talk about it. We're definitely going to be there. We want you to be there too. So, Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Good, great, doing great. So, Gun Rights Policy Conference. First, I'll tell you what. First, just talk about what, give us a quick spiel on what is Gun Rights Policy Conference to SAF. What does it do for SAF, and why does SAF have it?
Sure. So, Gun Rights Policy Conference has this will be the 40th annual Gun Rights Policy Conference, I think, or the 39th. My brain is shot on that at this point. The whole premise behind the event was to gather like-minded individuals, the leading lawyers, scholars, activists, and the general public, so that they could all come together, hear from the people who are working on the Second Amendment issues at the forefront of it, and as a way to network, as a way to better inform themselves and educate themselves about the state of the Second Amendment and where all of that is headed. And the ability, hopefully, to learn something that they can take home and apply to further advance the restoration of the right itself. And so, like I said, this is the 39th or 40th year of us doing that. And it usually does travel as well. So the idea being that there's people who will always get on an airplane to attend the event, but not everybody who's necessarily local would be willing to do that. So we try to bring it to different cities around the country, so that way everybody has an opportunity to attend. And we do stream it online now since 2025.
Cool. And this year it's in the great state of Utah, in the beautiful city of Salt Lake City. And the idea is it's Saturday and Sunday, and you're going to have vendors, but mostly speakers, activists, attorneys, all kinds of different experts when it comes to the Second Amendment, talking on different topics. Right? That's the idea? If someone comes, they're gonna get treated to the leaders in the Second Amendment world right now. Some, YouTubers, attorneys, activists, all kinds of anything you can think of. Somebody that's fighting for the Second Amendment in some way, you're going to see them up there on stage talking, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have everybody from the Attorney General of Missouri to, Jared Yanis of Guns and Gadgets on YouTube. Chris Cox will be there. Unfortunately, you'll get to hear from me, so you can make that a plus or a minus thing. The Attorney General of Montana will be there. Sarah Weaver, the daughter from Ruby Ridge, will be there to
Wow.
speak about that and the interaction, experience with ATF. So there's a whole slew of people. There's also, individuals from various states, much like you were on stage last year talking about what San Diego County Gun Owners does and how people can get involved. Same kind of thing. And then, of course, some of our SAF lawyers and other lawyers that either we work with or partner with on things will be there to talk about various states of the legal world as well.
Yeah, Doug Hamlin is going to be there from NRA,
Yes.
which I thought,
Yep.
I think that's a great get that you guys got him. And that what I really like about GRPC, I like a lot of things, but one of the things I really like about GRPC is there seems to be a feeling of unity where everyone's going, hey, you know what? We're all fighting the same fight. Maybe we're on a different section of the battlefield, but we're here together to celebrate the Second Amendment and talk about how we can all work together to move things forward. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a really great message.
Yeah, and that's part of the idea behind it is that regardless of what group you may have an affinity for, or you're a member of, or that you actively work with, we're all in working towards the same thing. And the part of the idea behind Gun Rights Policy Conference is to bring all of those various voices together so that people can hear about what is being done to protect and restore the Second Amendment from not just one group's perspective, but many.
And okay, so if you can make it, you want to be there Saturday and Sunday, but then there's and that's actually GRPC is Saturday and Sunday. But then the Friday before, they're in the same venue is amm-con. And can you just touch on that real quick and talk about amm-con the Friday before?
Sure. So amm-con is it's for alternative media, and this was started years ago when podcasting and YouTubing was kind of new on the scene as a alternative to traditional media. And in the similar spirit, it's gathering well-known YouTubers, podcasters, bloggers, people who are doing alternative, which have now kind of in some ways become mainstream versions of media, to share their tips and techniques of like how did they grow their channel or what's a good way to connect to a listener or a reader. And so that if you're involved in those types of activities, you can, come and learn some things that you can apply to your own media output in order to gain a bigger following, to better, sell your message to people. Things like that. So that happens the Friday before. that Friday evening, there's a reception mainly geared towards all the out-of-towners who are coming in the day before. Saturday, it starts bright and early. We have a whole day. There's lunch that's provided for everyone. We go till about 5 o'clock, where there's a little bit of a break, and then a reception in the evening again, where we feed you. There's the ability to, network, get to know some of these people that you might not have otherwise had a chance to meet and talk all things Second Amendment and beyond. And then Sunday, it's a half day before everybody departs and heads on home.
Yep. And how much does if someone wants to attend and they go to, obviously they got to pay for their own transportation there and their own hotel if they don't live in Utah. But how much does the conference and the reception and everything else, how much does all that cost?
Well, if you bring 10 Goldbacks and give them to me, I'll let you slide in through the back door. But it's free.
It's free. That's amazing. It's completely free. And it doesn't matter if you're a member of SAF, although we all prefer that you are. None of that. It just, if you register, you can go to all 3 days. You can go to amm-con.
Yes.
You have to register for amm-con separately, but you can go to amm-con for free. You can go to GRPC for free, and they feed you. I mean, it's really an amazing event.
Yeah. And for the listeners that are interested in attending, if you go to saf.org/GRPC, you can register. We do ask that you please pre-register so we can make sure we have a name badge and stuff for you. And you'll also find a link to the hotel where you can register at the block rate, which is discounted from what the usual rates of the hotel would be.
Nice. I got to tell you, GRPC looks awesome this year. Like you said, Jared Yanis and Doug Hamlin, and you are speaking, and you have a lot of really great guests, and I'm stoked. I'm really looking forward to. But I got to say, amm-con's keynote speaker probably going to be everybody's highlight for the weekend. So I think he's going to blow everybody's doors. To be honest with you, that's what I'm looking forward to most. I don't know if you're going to make time to be able to see the keynote speaker for amm-con. Do you know who I'm talking about?
It's going to depend what time it is, because I have a board meeting that day. So
skip that, man. Anyway,
I kind of have to be there.
I'm half tongue in cheek here, joking, but I'm actually the keynote speaker for amm-con. I'm very, very honored to be invited to do that. There's going to be a lot of great speakers, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm looking forward to the whole weekend, and I appreciate SAF so much. I appreciate all that you guys do. And I appreciate you guys partnering with us, with San Diego County gun owners, on a number of lawsuits, including some that are coming up that we'll talk about later. We can't talk about it yet.
Yep.
And so thank you so much. And we invite everybody, go to saf.org, register, and make a weekend of it. Go see Salt Lake City and come to Utah and have a good time talking about the Second Amendment and learning some important things with us.
Yeah, we would love to see you. So hope to see you there.
Great. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
This is brought to you by Cargo, cases and rugged gear outfitters in El Cajon. Go to cargostores.com, buy something today, or visit them at 423 Broadway in El Cajon. There are two enemies of your firearms, rust and the government. The good news is Cargo has your back on both fronts. As a proud sponsor, they're helping us fight to get more pro-Second Amendment officials into office, and their rugged cases help you keep your firearms secure and protected. Built like a tank, Cargo cases are stackable, weatherproof, and ready for anything. Whether you're hitting the range or going off the grid, you need a Cargo case. Whether for your gun or other equipment, you need a Cargo case. And here's something that's just for our listeners. If you buy a Cargo case in the store at Cargo Rugged Gear Outfitters in El Cajon, just mention Gun Owners Radio, and you're going to get a free desiccant pack. And that's going to help keep your gear bone dry, battle ready, and rust free. Visit them at 423 Broadway in El Cajon. Great products, great prices, and uncommonly good service. Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters. Cargo. Check them out. All right, it's time for Curtain Call. Alicia Curtin, we found out that she is excellent when it comes to defensive gun use analysis. So today she's just talking about a story out of Akron. Akron woman who was shot by masked intruders during home invasion grabbed gun to defend herself. Wow. So what happened in Ohio here?
So what we have is a woman. And the article, by the way, does come from news5cleveland.com. if you'd like to look it up. So what we have is we have a 25-year-old woman who lives there in Ohio, and she was home by herself, and there were some masked invaders that came into her home. So they had there's pictures or surveillance snapshots of them coming in. They all have hoods and or masks bearing different types of things covering or obscuring their faces. They broke into her home. They came in. They were armed. They do appear to be teens. They obviously have not been caught. Otherwise, we would know a little bit more about them. They did enter the home, obviously for nefarious or not kind reasons.
Yeah.
She happened to have been in the restroom when it happened. So when they
Jeez.
broke in, she was in the bathroom. So what does she do? She comes out of her home, she opens the restroom door, and she finds these people in her home. So what we have here, I actually want to kind of read it for a moment here and just kind of just read it directly from the article. There are quotes from her. She said that she grabbed a gun from a cabinet to defend herself. She tried to cock the gun, but before she could do that, one of the suspects shot her in the left leg. I fell to the ground, she said. I got blurry, fell to the ground, and started screaming. So she was shot as part of this encounter, as part of seeing these people in her home. She did grab a firearm of her own, and after she was shot, they did book it and leave. And so there's no mention of them being caught or any follow-up that I was able to locate. She was taken was taken to a hospital for treatment. She underwent some treatments and surgeries and things for her leg. She did survive. So this here has a couple of things that I would actually like to talk about.
Sure.
I'd love for you to jump in if there's anything you want to share. A couple of things. Now, according to the article, this is a direct quote. It says that she tried to cock the gun. Now, we know cocking versus racking. Was this a revolver? Was she trying to cock the hammer? Which, don't know. There's just a lot of things that as I'm reading, I'm like, things that were kind of food for thought. So, first of all, what kind of firearm was it? Now, if it was a revolver, cocking of the hammer is not generally necessary unless you've got a single action only. So kind of think about your defensive firearms. First of all, where are you going to put them? This one was staged in a cabinet. Also, too, what type of firearm do you have? If you have a semi-automatic, if you are storing it for self-defense or staging it, do you have one in the chamber? Do you not? And why? This here meant it, she was only hit in the leg. And I say only because it wasn't my leg. Yeah, right. It could have been worse. If you have to take the time to clear a malfunction out of your gun, is that the best way to start a self-defense encounter? So consider where we stage, how we stage, and kind of think about those things.
Well, she was in the bathroom. I think
she was in the bathroom.
This is one more
a shower gun.
I was going to say this is
Argument
one more
for your shower gun. Yeah.
Like if people make fun of me, but man, you need a good solid shower gun. I couldn't. It's really. I mean, we joke here, but her quote here. It was very scary. I was terrified, but I didn't show it. Good for you for not showing it. Of course, you were terrified. Somebody was trying to cause serious harm to you, but
Absolutely.
You did it. You were able to. At least grab the firearm, and of course you survived. So congratulations. I hope you watch this and feel good about doing what you needed to survive. But what other lessons do we learn from this?
I think here's the thing: is you mentioned this earlier, right? Self-defenders. First of all, you have to have the firearm. So kudos to her for having taken that step to acquire that firearm, to purchase it, to buy it, and then to have it placed somewhere in the home. I personally also do happen to, I still carry on my person when I'm home. You never know. A staged gun. I would rather you have a staged gun than no firearm at all. But the firearm that's actually on you is going to be so much more accessible. So, but we all have different lifestyles. We all have different circumstances. Maybe you have young children and you just don't feel comfortable staging. Whatever it is. There's lots of variables in here. But kudos to her that, first of all, she had the firearm. Yeah. Right? She had it. What's her level of training? I don't know. We don't know, right? We don't know. But she had the most important piece is that she had that firearm. And I'm just thankful that she did, right? And that she thought and remembered to go for it, because there are times to where we can also, too, get tunnel vision. Maybe we forget what some of our options are. And so I'm glad that she thought and she remembered and she did it.
Nice job. Her name's Jasmine. She's in Ohio. She's 25 years old, and she is alive today.
defensive
job.
gun use.
And I don't really know, it's tough to tell. Like you said, they said that she had to cock it first. We don't know what that means. We don't know if, maybe the reporter has no idea what that term means. We don't know. Maybe she doesn't know what that term means. So it leads you to believe it was a revolver. Maybe it was, but we just don't know because the reporting could be so poor. So.
Just kind of indicates that there might have been an action that was felt or seemed to have been needed to take before the gun was in operable condition, maybe.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, our guest is Michael Birkenshaw. He's with Cargo. Cargo you'll recognize as one of our sponsors. Cargo is out in El Cajon. They sell cases and all kinds of cool products. But today we're here to talk about Goldbacks. We want to learn everything we can about Goldbacks. It's something that he brought to our attention and I wanted to learn more about. So we invited him into the studio to show us examples and have a conversation about it. So Michael, welcome. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for the support and thank you so much for making the time to come in and talk to us about Goldbacks. So let's start with the most basic. What is a Goldback?
So let's see, probably the best way to describe it, it's a hyper-fractional presentation in gold. It's real gold, and it's been minted into these bills that are now called Goldbacks. The history, they came out in about 2019 is when the first Utah series was issued. So they started making different sets for different states, and they were intended to be a voluntary currency for a given state. Although, again, they contain a certain quantity of gold, so therefore they have the value of gold, and they have a market value that goes with that. As you can see there's several examples. They have beautiful artwork embedded in them. And it's a diffusion, they atomize the gold and then laminate it. And so each Goldback, one Goldback is 1/1000th of an ounce. Mm-hmm. As you can see here, there's the Florida series just came out. They have 8 different bills or Goldbacks. So they have the half Goldback. There's the one Goldback. A one Goldback is the 1/1000th of an ounce. And then they incrementally grow up to, the Florida is the first one that has the 100. Before that, there were only 5 available per state. So they had the 1, the 5, the 10, 20, and 50. And now Florida has also added the half Goldback as well as the 100. And
they're physically, they're about the size of a dollar bill, or somewhere around there. Some are smaller, some are bigger, but they're kind of around that size. But the more they're worth, the bigger they are, because the bigger they have to be, because the more gold they contain.
Correct, and they're thicker as well. So you can they have the weight in gold, right?
Wow.
So the 100 Goldback is 1/10 of a troy ounce.
Wow.
So
no
that,
kidding.
and you can feel the difference in that one versus, let's say, the half.
That was so cute.
And so the thickness.
Okay, so
the
this
weight
is,
of it.
how much is this big one right here?
So that's 1/10 of a troy ounce.
Wow, and how much is this one right here?
This one is what is it? Let me see down here. Just a minute. 1/2000th.
1/2000th.
Yeah, so you need 2,000 of the halves to make up 1 troy ounce, which in comparison for, real gold, what people know is either in gold rounds or gold bars, which is what this would be.
That's a gold bar.
So this is a 1 ounce gold bar.
Interesting. Maybe hold it under the camera there. Okay, now you said they are making it. Who is this one company that makes it, or so? Talk about that. Like, what? How much do you know about the company, and how much do you know about their decision to start making?
Right,
this?
they're based in Utah. Again, they issued their first series for the state of Utah as a voluntary currency, and they spent approximately 20 years developing the technology to make these bills. And when you look at them, you can tell just in the face of it how incredibly difficult this would be to counterfeit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're just so unique. Not only that, they also have some blacklight UV features in it. They're serialized. They have several other aspects to them. And again, who would go through the trouble of trying to counterfeit this? And then, and these, when you look at them, you can tell, how it glistens. Gold just does what it does.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, it's pretty neat. You hold it to an angle. It's not quite like a hologram, but it kind of has some type of
and then the backside
image that appears at an angle.
Yeah, the backside also has the negative image of it. So there's a lot of different features to it that make them unique. And again, they spent literally 20 years developing the technology to make these. They started out with Utah. Those was 5 bills for that. They then, I believe, and I'm not sure exact order, I think Nevada was the next state. There's New Hampshire, which is obviously a very libertarian state.
Yeah,
right? They just had to sign up to, live free or die.
Yeah, we want voluntary currency.
Yeah. And then who else we got? We got Wyoming, and we have South Dakota. And they just came out with Florida. And Florida has 8 bills. That's the one that also has the half Goldback and the 100. And so that's the 8. And I think that's where they're going to go. And there's the Alpha series, which is the first year of issue. So there's a collector interest in these, I believe, to begin with. And it's a little bit of a novelty in that sense. But the bottom line is that no matter what happens, it's still
gold.
It will never be worth nothing.
Yeah. So it's worth however much the gold that's in it. But then there's also like an art component and a collector component.
Correct.
So it might be worth a little bit more. Like people may find one more valuable because, because of when it was created or the art that's on it. But no matter what, it's always worth how much gold is in it.
Right. And the challenge with precious metals in general is if you intended to use it for trade, that not just the conversion, but how fractional can you make it? Because when you're looking at this 1 ounce bar of gold, this is worth $3,300 today.
Jeez.
So who's going to give you change, right? One Goldback today.
Really?
One Goldback today is worth $670, I believe. It updates every day. The premium is already built in. Now, when I say $3,300, this is the spot price of gold. Okay. On top of that, there's a premium that the dealers will charge.
Yeah.
They don't do that with the Goldback. That one's already built in. And so when I first bought my first set, I bought every set there was back in 2022. They were $3.70 per Goldback. Right now, it's more than doubled. So they're $670.
I have thought about that because you run into people like, oh, I'm buying pure gold coins. I'm gonna have these gold coins in case the everything falls apart and the economy collapses and whatever. And it was one thing when gold was a few $100 an ounce, but now it's like you said, $3,300. It's over $3,300 an ounce.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, okay, I got this object that's worth $3,300. Like,
right.
You go to your neighbor to get $3,300 worth of eggs or chickens or whatever, and like, you know what I mean? Like you said, There's not a lot of change.
Right.
Let me ask you how much do you know about the company that's producing this? How much do you know about their motivations? Like, do you know what were they trying to accomplish by doing this?
I believe it was just presenting another option to for people to have as trade, to bring awareness to the use of gold as a currency, as precious metals are just a hedge against inflation, right? And you generally don't look at it as an investment that you buy in the hopes that it grows. It's more the alternative to as the dollar loses value, which it has. And so it was just to present another option. For example, this 100 Goldback, which has already disappeared. Alicia.
Yeah,
I shared it with Rich.
It's in my pocket.
I know. So there is so this is 1/10 of a troy ounce. There is a 1/10 of a ounce coin. And that thing is so small, you will lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like smaller than a button.
Right.
I mean, I can fit 2 of them on my fingernail. I would never buy that small of a coin for that because it's so easy to, how do you control that, right? Again, in terms of the company, Goldback, again, they're based in Utah. That's where they started it. And, beyond just offering another version, it's a new way of minting gold, basically.
Minting gold.
Right.
So you said something interesting that I think is thought-provoking. You said that, the dollar's lost value. I think most people would look at what gold has done over the last 25 years and say, hey, it's gone from whatever, $350 an ounce to $3,300, $3,400 an ounce. And they would put it in those terms. Gold has appreciated. Has gold appreciated? Or has the dollar lost value against gold? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's the
it's
second.
both.
Yeah,
but it's, people don't think of it in those terms.
That's the thing. Gold has maintained its value. There was a good example that said back in the 30s, that 1 ounce was maybe $20.
Yeah.
Okay, that $20 coin would get you a nice dress pant, tailored suit, nice men's shoes, and the whole setup. Today, you're going to pay about $3,300 for something like that.
Yeah.
For a tailored suit and nice shoes and a vest and the whole get up. So that's kind of the example that it's the same value as it was, almost 100 years ago.
There's a case to be made that gold is the constant and always has been. Gold, gold is the gold standard of currency.
Yep.
It always maintains its value. It's everything else around it that changes. The dollar changes.
Correct.
The price of a car changes, technology changes, but gold is constant. So what's your motivation? What do you like about have you been collecting precious metals for a while, or what got you into Goldbacks?
To some extent, always been interested in it. I mean, I've probably bought pretty cheap metal when I first bought it. I kind of put it in the same category as guns. When I buy them, I will never sell it. It's just they're for keeps, and so that's kind of the approach for it. And it's again, it will hold its value, and that's primarily my interest in it. And again, if there were a collapse of the dollar, which is not the first time that's happened in a nation, right? I mean, you look at the German, the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic. I mean, during that time, employers were literally paying out their employees 3 times a day because the value of their paper was going in garbage.
Jeez.
And people were using, bundles of cash just to heat their home with or use it as toilet paper because it was worthless. Nobody wanted it.
Yeah, but I think you're assuming that Congress is irresponsible with their spending and budgeting.
You think?
That just doesn't that doesn't add up, Michael. I don't know.
I don't know. No, again,
so you're collecting precious metals for the purpose of maintaining value. What attracted you to Goldbacks? Why did you go in that direction?
So, I mean, I liked the look of them and the concept, and at first I didn't view them as much of a tool to necessarily, for trade anytime soon. It seemed more, a little bit of a gimmicky in that sense, but at the same time, compared to, let's say, collecting stamps or collecting baseball cards, right? They have their value and they increase and whatever. But when it's all said and done, they have no real value. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? Precious metal still has that value no matter what you do, whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
And so,
like you said, they might appreciate some of the art a little bit more, but at the end of the day, the absolute bottom is still going to be the value of the gold inside.
Right, right. And that's the difference, right? If you, for example, I mean, here, I brought this guy. I can get this out.
Did we show that to Alicia yet?
No, I don't
not
think
yet.
so.
Here, Alicia, check this
Ooh,
out.
I'm wishing I were-
Hand that to Alicia, but Alicia,
Be careful. Don't drop it.
Yep, be careful. It's there you go.
I'm wishing I would
Show
have
that to
cargo
the-
pants with bigger pockets.
Show that to the
heavy.
camera.
So that's a 100-ounce bar of of silver.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's worth in silver about as much as the 1
Is that-
ounce.
So here, let me pass that. So hold those both up, Alicia. These are both worth about the same amount of money.
Yep.
One's gold,
Yeah.
one's silver.
Right.
And how heavy is that silver?
Freaking heavy.
And
It's
if that,
kind of heavy, right?
That is. That's
It's like, just for people at home, I would say that silver bar,
Like-
it's about the size of like a dive weight, that you put on a
that
weight
size.
belt,
lead,
right. I think, and I easily could. Like, here's what's really funny is I think of weight sometimes as how heavy would that be on my belt if this were a carry gun? Like,
Well, it's 100 ounces, or whatever way you put it, right? So
That would be a fully loaded Smith & Wesson 500 at least.
At least.
At least it's pretty heavy.
right,
Two.
Right.
So that 100 ounce, or what is it, 100, 1,000 ounces?
That's 100 ounce.
100 ounces. That 100 ounces of silver
Yeah.
is 1,000 ounce. Of course,
Right.
not 1,000 ounce. That 100 ounces of silver, that's bulky. It's hard to carry.
It's not practical.
like you said, you
Right.
can't get
Not as easily transportable, but yet, but again, it's back to the how do you trade it as currency, right? In comparison to that, we have, if you're showing it or I'm showing it. Oops.
Yep,
Oh,
hold it up to the. There you go. Show it. Well, I believe should be the.
So that's a 1 ounce silver coin, round, they call those. And
Maybe show that to the camera right next to you there.
this one.
So
And that, what is that?
So
We're
this is
looking at
five troy ounces. So commensurately, the 100 ounce bar is the cheapest way to buy precious metals because of the premium, right? These spot price, they're all the same. But then, the larger the volume of what you're purchasing, the cheaper it becomes. So that's why the cost of the gold back is higher than the 1 ounce at that rate, because it's the minting process and all of that, it adds to that. How small do you have to make it? So when you go to a tenth of an ounce coin, the premium on that will add a lot of cost to when you buy it, right?
Interesting.
And so that's again the negotiability, right? The 1 ounce round of silver that today is probably spot price is $38. You'll probably pay $40, when you buy it from a dealer, because that's the premium. The dealer, it's the minting, the mining, and again, silver's got its own little world right now because nobody's really mining for silver. Silver is a byproduct of the gold and copper mining. They just happen to run across it, and so there are silver mines out there, but nobody's really pursuing it because there's enough of it around. And
In modern technology, there's actually a lot of uses for silver.
Absolutely,
Your
yeah,
cell phone is full of silver.
Yeah.
Now show them. I was looking when you went on that side camera there. Show them the Florida art. Show them the Florida art. I just saw that in the back. There you go on the side there. The pirate.
Yeah.
Leave it to Florida to have have their art be a pirate hooker.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they got the pirate bay, and it's a wench, right?
It's wench.
Yeah, there you go. So, and this is the latest series. So they have really upped their game on the artwork all the way around, with Florida in particular. Here's another Florida, the 50, and then this is the 100.
It's interesting. I'm noticing there's actually a lot of women. They're all women.
They're all
looks
women.
like.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What's the market for that? But in all the states, but as you look at some of the earlier states, the artwork wasn't quite as, beautiful or the attention. I mean, they're still beautiful because I bought these before Florida was even out, and I was already impressed by them. So I believe there's a possibility that they're going to redo some of the original states.
And then it becomes a bit of a collector's item.
And then they're going to just step up the artwork, with them, because they're getting better at making these, right? I mean, that's kind of what it all boils down to.
Well, the older ones look like more of a classic, like they were trying to maybe copy the style of like a dollar bill. And then the newer ones look newer. They look more modern. Like, hey, we're just going to go super modern on this.
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, Arizona's coming out next. That will also have 8 bills, so they'll also have the half. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, not Oklahoma is the next one. No, yeah, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, we already have pre-ordered. Actually, we have some on the way. That'll also be 8. And then in between there, they'll add some limited edition ones, right? So these, I'm not 100% sure how many they make at a time. But on the Oklahoma ones, there's a 3 gold back one. And that one, they're only making 4,000 of these. And those you can already buy them, pre-purchase them in places like on some of the metal dealers and also on eBay, I've seen them for the 3 Goldback is because it's such a rarity for about almost $300.
Wow.
And so there's that, people that need the full collection, they'll spring for it when it's available because, again, only 4,000 were made, and I think half of those were reserved for businesses in the state to encourage people to recognize these. So they're giving some away to those stores and dealers. In fact, here in San Diego, we have, I think, well, that's what got us started in the business to become a distributor.
Are you? That's what I was going to ask. Are you a distributor? Are you selling them right now?
Yeah.
So people can go to Cargo in El Cajon and purchase Goldbacks from you.
Right. And not only that, when we first started, that happens with a lot of our products, right? I buy one or one of our, we purchase them, we test them, we try them out, like the freeze dryers, right? We got into those. I bought one for my home. I said, I love this, got to become a dealer. So now we sell them.
That's awesome. Now, have you actually read an article or seen, has anybody walked into a car dealership and bought a car or bought a pizza with them or something like that? Have you seen them actually used for transacting business yet?
I mean, I haven't seen it happen, but there's currently at least three businesses in town that accept Goldback for payment.
Wow. Nice.
And that's how we started.
Yeah.
We opened the doors to, you want to come in with a Goldback and purchase any of our goods, market value, that's what you get.
How interesting.
We have an app that we have on our computer right there on the screen. Every day it updates at 10 o'clock. Every day the price changes according to the market, and it stays that way for the day. And I haven't even looked today, but I have an app on the phone which also gives you a calculator. So let's say the purchase is $200. It'll tell you how many Goldbacks and how much cash, right? So that you can quickly make the transaction.
That's awesome.
And so that's how we started. And there's an air conditioning company in town that accepts Goldback. I can't remember what the other guys did, but there's like 3 or 4 businesses in California or in San Diego. And I think that's probably more prominent in, Utah and Nevada and places that already have their own,
more established.
They have their own bill,
Yeah.
right? Because it was intended to be a local currency, and I think they kind of pigeonholed themselves a little bit rather than making it a free people money, you know what I mean,
right.
or coming up with that. But I think it offers them the opportunity to have all this beautiful artwork as they keep going. Was it a few months ago maybe? I had heard DeSantis in Florida wanted to make precious metal a currency for this legal tender for the state. So, but unfortunately, I think they're driving it more towards like digital gold and certificates and stuff. So
it is an interesting modern combination with obviously classic as old as humanity type of currency. So so if you are interested in Goldbacks, you want to maybe purchase some, you want to learn more about them, you want to see them. Go visit Cargo in El Cajon. What's your address?
We're at 423 Broadway Avenue in El Cajon.
423 Broadway in El Cajon, and your website is
cargostores.com.
Great. And what else would you like people to know about Goldbacks?
Just like I said, come check them out. I think they're good. We accept them as payment, and you can also purchase them, from us as you need them. And again, I think it's kind of a cool idea for everything collectors or even a store of value. We sell entire sets of the collections, which I don't know if you wanted to show this guy here.
Yeah, show real quick.
I can hold it up here.
Look at that. That's awesome.
So we have
I mean, they're artistic and they're, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool. It's got a little bit of artistic value and a whole lot of, actual value, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's other items that we have. If somebody buys them for a gift, we have some sleeves. For them as well that are embossed with a Goldback. There's a Goldback wallet that basically holds them properly. Another interesting concept with these is that people worry about how delicate they may be. They're actually pretty durable.
Yeah,
okay?
That seem very durable.
And you probably don't want to be creasing them any more than you have to.
Right.
But in general, they're still going to hold up. Not only that, if they wear to an extent that you're not happy with them, you can send them back and get them replaced for new ones.
Oh, good.
So.
Nice.
Now, that's where you kind of get in a situation for the ones that are the Alpha series, the first ones issued versus others. So now you probably want to put those away and not use them, We're also bringing in some other ones that are called Silverback that are made with silver. And those are definitely going to be more of a collector's, but it's got really cool dragon on it, and it's just some really cool artwork and stuff.
Nice. Well, very cool.
Anyway,
check it out. Michael Berkhamshaw from Cargo in El Cajon talking about Goldbacks. If you're interested, go down and check him out. Even if you're just anywhere near the El Cajon area, go down and say hi to Michael. Check out his shop. This is just one of the many cool things that he sells, but I think this is extremely interesting, and it's worth the conversation. Go check it out, and support Michael for supporting us and bringing you Gun Owners Radio.
I was going to just add real quick. Another concept with these that I found initially when I bought my sets is I found these to be incredibly fun to give as gifts.
Yeah.
You know, you can put them in a birthday card and mail them, you know, very easily to whatever value. And I try to raise some intrigue with people by, like I've given them away as a tip at a restaurant.
Oh,
just,
nice.
I just throw in one, it's a $7 Goldback, but it's a conversation starter, and it gets people to start thinking, and I think there's a value in people appreciating precious metals.
Well, cool. Well, great. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. Very cool. Thanks, Michael.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings. So I like to say it's a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot process, much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.
Okay, it's time for everybody's favorite Stump My Nephew. We found out that Sam the Gunman, my nephew, is actually really good at gun trivia. So if you send us a question and we use it on the air, you'll get a hat or a shirt. And if you stump my nephew, you'll get a special prize. But good luck with that. He's extremely good at gun trivia. He doesn't get the question in advance. The first time you hear the question is the first time he hears the question. So he doesn't get any time to prepare. And, man, he's really good at this. So good luck. Send us in a question. And like I said, we'll use it on the air. We'll try to stump my nephew with it. So, Sam, how you doing, man?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Good, good, good. Are you feeling confident today?
I don't know. The fact that you led off with that leads me to believe I shouldn't be.
I can't tell if this is in your wheelhouse or not. I'm not sure. You think?
But yeah.
You have, yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how you go. Go ahead, Alicia. What's this question?
All right. So, Sam, here's your question. And we actually don't have a sender on this one.
Oh, yeah. It's, we'll name the sender after.
All right. So here's your question. The U.S. M1 Garand, I'll let there be a conversation on that, is often credited as the first standard issue semi-automatic rifle in military service. However, another semi-automatic rifle actually saw standard issue adoption in limited numbers before, the Garand. What was the rifle and which country fielded it?
Ooh. Semi-automatic rifle, standard, adopted as standard, but issued in only limited numbers before the M1. So the M1 was officially adopted by the U.S. Army at the beginning of 1936. Which is fairly early. So that would have to predate the SVT in the Soviet Union because that was adopted in 1938. The French had the Moss 40, but that wasn't adopted until right around the beginning of the war. And then back in World War I, you had some kind of specialized stuff. Well, I know the Russians had the Fedorov, but that was more of an automatic rifle. It was select fire, and it was designed for it was designed with that capability from the beginning. So it was kind of more of a specialist weapon. I'm going to pull one way out of left field. I'm going to say the French RSC 1917 in World War I. They produced them in small numbers. They used them in the trenches, in combat, but they did not fully replace the RSC 1917 and RSC 1918 did not fully replace the various rifles in French service. Now, I'm not super familiar with all of the French rifles out there, but I know the RSC was an autoloader. They did use it in World War I. I'm going to go with that.
Okay, so just to recap, the question is, what semi-automatic rifle saw standard issue adoption in limited numbers before the Garand?
Standard issue adoption, limited numbers before the Garand. Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure the Moss 40 post dates the Garand. So I'm still going to go with. I know you're trying to fake me out. You're trying to mess with me.
No. I just wanted to make sure you understand. Okay. So what's the answer?
So, the answer that was
Which is
provided
kinda interesting.
is actually one of the things you discussed, but then
Yeah.
you discounted it and you kept going.
Yeah.
So here's the answer we were provided. The Fedorov Avtomat, which I'm probably butchering that, adopted by Imperial Russia in 1916. It was a select fire rifle chambered in 6.5 by 50 millimeter.
Arasaka.
Right, Arasaka, making it arguably the world's first practical assault rifle, decades before the term existed, although it was issued only in small numbers due to World War I production limits and the Russian Revolution.
That was sent in by Frank and El Cajon, but here's my question, because I don't comb through the internet trying to make sure that these are accurate. We put a lot of faith in the person asking the question. So do you agree? Do you think this person's right, or do you think you're right?
The Fedorov was adopted in 1916, so the timing makes sense. I was under the impression that it was only used by specialist troops, and that there were not plans to make it the standard issue rifle of the Imperial Russian Army. So it could go either way.
That part's a little subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, that part's I think I've said this before, in a lot of history questions broadly. There are a lot of different definitions of first, but I would say that yes, his answer is a valid answer, and within the parameters of the question, that is a valid answer. So
I think we're gonna
concede the point to Frank. Is it Frank or Fred?
We're going to call this the tie. The tie goes to the runner. Frank's the runner. So we're going to give Frank a special prize. I think what we're going to do is give him a day of training with an instructor. We'll figure that out. We'll see what he wants best. But you still nailed it. You still gave us a lot of really great information.
It was a great question. And I think a lot of it hinges on what we consider to be standard issue. Do we consider standard issue to mean something that was mass-produced and fielded by troops in combat in a capacity other than field trials? Or do we mean it was intended to replace the standard service rifle of the time? But using the former definition, Frank got it. That was a great question. Thanks for sending it in.
That was a great question. All right, perfect. What are you working on do you have anything coming up as far as articles, whether it's for Leatherneck or for us or anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I know I said a little while ago I was working on a blog post about little known but influential firearms. And the deeper I dug, the more information I uncovered. So I'm going to have to expand each one into its own blog post. So look for that coming up soon.
That's interesting because I already know what next week's Stump My Nephew is. And it's about a unique and little known firearm that's kind of a classic. So there's a preview for next week. So we'll see if you get it or not. But it ties into what you're writing about. So awesome. Well, great, Sam. Thank you so much. Appreciate you as always, my friend.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. As always, again, great question. That's a fun one.
Cool. All right, man. See you next week. Okay, we had Coach from Smith & Wesson on not too long ago, and fantastic friend of the show, great instructor, great guy. But we had a discussion after, Dakota and I had a discussion after, and there were some things that she wanted to talk about, some things that she wanted to address. Dakota is a local Second Amendment leader. She's the chapter leader for A Girl and a Gun. She's taught many people how to shoot. Most of them, I believe, are women. And there were some things that she wanted to talk about the interview that she thought would serve well if we gave some clarification and was just a discussion point to go into further detail. So, Dakota, what do you got? Set it up for us.
So, no, thanks for the intro, Mike. That was perfect. I I don't think that anything that Coach said was wrong. I just want to kind of highlight a few things he said and talk about maybe some different perspectives on that. Because I think sometimes, someone listening to this show may have very little firearms experience at all. And so they hear, revolvers are great for women, and they take that and they go buy a revolver, And so we just want to give some context. Revolvers can be a great option for women, 100%. And I want to talk about why sometimes they're the best option for a person.
I can say the internet is full of response videos, and we're doing a response video to our own video. I think this might be an internet first.
We're fancy,
so
yeah. We do this right.
All right, fire it up.
All right, let's
what do you got first?
clip.
I suggest a J-frame in 32 H&R Magnum. We have the ultimate carry. Gives you 6 shots of 32 Magnum. You can shoot 32 longs or 32 shorts in it, so you can go training with cheap, light recoiling ammo, and then put in your Magnums for self-defense. It's the perfect gun for, especially women with limited hand strength and just people who don't train all the time. Because if you have a auto pistol, if you get a click instead of a bang, there's a function you have to do. You have to do an immediate action drill in order to get that thing shooting again, right? And that has to be automatic, so you have to train it. Well, if you're not willing to or not able to put in the time to train, a revolver works really, really good because you just squeeze the trigger again. So if you get a light strike or whatever, you just squeeze that trigger again and you've got 6 tries.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times revolvers can be a great option. I think there's specific reasons why a revolver would be what you want to choose, especially as a woman. When we're talking about women and grip strength, sometimes revolvers can have very, very long and hard trigger pulls that make it difficult for folks who have really weak grips. So if you are an elderly woman or you have arthritis in your fingers, your joints, that can actually be a very difficult gun for you to shoot well. But there is a huge difference in the kinds of revolvers that you can get. So like a really tiny 357 revolver is going to be very difficult to shoot. I think the Smith & Wesson line and the 32 H&M that Coach was talking about is a great option for folks who want to have a revolver. Now, why would you want to have a revolver instead of a semi-automatic? There are a couple of reasons. Coach mentioned kind of one of them specifically, which is if the gun malfunctions, as long as it's not a really horrible mechanical failure that requires a gunsmith to fix, if it's just something like a light strike, if the gun malfunctions in that way, it is very easy to continue using the gun if it's a revolver because you don't have to tap the bottom of the magazine, rack the slide, and then press the trigger again. On a revolver, you can just keep pressing the trigger. And as long as it was just a light strike or an ammunition problem, you don't have to do anything except shoot again for that gun to work. What can happen, just like with any gun, is the revolver has a bigger problem, right? Like a mechanical failure that would require, a gunsmith. And that's not really what we're talking about here. We're just talking about, ammunition problems, things like that. What I would never want us to, promote or for it to come across like that women are unable or incapable of clearing malfunctions. And that's not what Coach meant at all. But I just want to clarify that clearing a malfunction on a semi-automatic handgun is very simple. Do not be intimidated by it. If you're a woman, you're just learning how to shoot, this is not a 4-hour class on how to clear a malfunction and you can't figure it out. You could learn how to clear a malfunction in like 10 minutes. It's very, very simple to do. So don't let just that make you afraid of using a semi-automatic instead of a revolver. I will say that sometimes the revolvers are easier to conceal in some ways, right? Because they're very small. They can fit a little bit easier in, large pocket, in a pocket holster, or in a purse even. The long, hard trigger pull can be a challenge for folks with grip strength problems. But on the converse side, it also makes it harder for you to have a negligent discharge because it's more difficult to press that trigger. So there are definitely pros and cons to revolvers. It's a great platform. But as always, before you buy a gun, I would 100% recommend that you go to a range like Discount Gun Mart here on Marina, where you can rent some different options and try them out yourself on the range. You could shoot a few different revolvers and find that 3 of them you absolutely hated. They hurt your hands. They were so difficult to aim. And then 3 of them you loved. And you are the only person who's going to be able to figure that out. I think going and meeting an instructor, having a little bit of one-on-one coaching during your rental session would be very helpful for you to get a good grip and make sure you're properly using the gun so that you can come to the correct conclusion at the end of your rental. But I think it's really important for us to just kind of mention that revolvers, just like semi-automatics, can and do fail. You know, sights fall off, the gun breaks, the trigger stops working, whatever. There are ways for it to completely and totally fail. But as far as clearing a malfunction, you don't have to be afraid of using a semi-automatic just because there's extra steps. It is slower to clear a malfunction on a semi-automatic than it is on a revolver, but you also get more capacity, you can have more ammunition in the gun. So there's pros and cons to all of these. I just don't want it to sound like, you know, one size fits all. Revolvers are always going to be the best choice for women. There's lots of great choices out there for everybody, for men and women alike, and it's a very personal decision what fits your hand, what you can shoot well, and things like that. So that's the first bit. Can we go into that second clip?
Well, okay. So in order to get your CCW, there's usually a class you have to go through, and there's very little actual shooting that you do. You just have to demonstrate that you're safe with the gun, and that's not enough. You know, it's when people go, oh, I took the course. You know, you went and did the test basically, but you didn't practice.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of practice. And in California, some classes that you take for CCWs are only like 100 rounds of shooting. Very, very little shooting. Depending on where you go to take the class, you may not even get any personalized feedback on your shooting. So 100%, we definitely strongly encourage getting some training before you're carrying a gun. I will say, just as a add-on to what Coach was saying, just because you need more training doesn't necessarily mean that you need to pay for in-person expensive training. If you can't afford that, we have so many resources available to us for free on the internet at this point in this day and age. So don't let that scare you. If you want your CCW and you don't have time, you know, aside from the 16-hour class California is going to require you to take, you don't have time to go to the range or get private lessons. There are lots and lots of resources online for things from concealed carry, getting, you know, yourself comfortable with your holster and things like that, drawing and firing, and then also just all of the resources available for shooting skills, marksmanship, accuracy, tactical anatomy. All of those topics are covered in depth on YouTube and in podcasts and things like that. So there's lots of resources for you that are free or nearly free.
So wherever you're carrying it, you need to practice dry fire. Just dry fire drawing that sucker every time. Every time I put a gun in a pocket or, you know, on my person, I draw it a couple times just to make sure that it you know, I know ergonomically, you know, where all my, you know, what shirt I'm wearing. You know, does it open in front? Does it lift it up?
All right, so I think dry fire is a great tool, but it was just a brief mention here. And so we just want to dive a little bit more into what makes dry fire safe and how to do that safely at home. I know we've got some listeners who are fairly new to shooting, and I don't want you to hear that clip and think that you should take your loaded gun out of the holster and point it at a wall in your house in order to practice your draw stroke every day when you put your gun on. That would not be a smart idea, right? When we talk about administrative handling, that's the concept of us handling a loaded firearm with the trigger exposed, so it's not protected by a holster, and we're not intending to shoot it. If all of those things are happening, trigger is exposed, we're not planning on shooting, and the gun is loaded, we should not be doing that unless we absolutely have to. It should only be done for very good reasons, like, for example, taking your gun out of a holster to put it into a safe, something like that. For me personally, I keep my gun stored in the holster, and I put the entire holster in the safe so that I'm never drawing the gun out of the holster when I don't need to, when it's not relevant. I don't want to be pointing a loaded gun around in my house ever unless it's absolutely necessary. So when we're talking about dry fire and practicing our draw stroke, my recommendation would always be to have an identical setup in a blue gun or a SIRT pistol. So you can get a revolver, a J-frame. You could get all sorts of, the 365 in blue guns. There's shields in blue guns. There's Glocks in blue guns. Get something similar or the same as your personal carry gun, but use that blue gun for your dry fire, for your practice draws. That way you can practice from your position every morning, every evening, whatever you want to do, so that you know exactly how your shirt works and all of that. That's all great advice from Coach. But we just want to make sure you guys are doing that safely and that you're not drawing a loaded gun in your house just for practice. That would be, in my opinion, way too much risk for the possible reward. You can get all of that practice in at the range. You can, practice clearing from concealment, drawing your gun after you've cleared your garment. All of that can be done at the range or in dry fire with either a completely empty gun or a replica gun that can't fire. And then one other thing that was mentioned in this conversation was the concept of pocket carry. And I just want to kind of clarify that we would never recommend that you just throw a gun in a pocket. Smith & Wesson is very popular in revolvers. That's like one of their big things. And so there are pocket holsters specifically for revolvers that make it very safe to carry a small gun like a revolver in your pocket. But this is not something that I would do with a semi-automatic. It's not something I would do with a gun with a light trigger on it. And if you are going to just kind of, toss a gun into a pocket or into a purse or something like that, it should always have a safe holster that's made out of something like Kydex, very firm around the trigger guard area so that there's no chance that anything random could get into that trigger area. But we really just want you guys to be safe and to have like the knowledge of best practices for these types of things. So we just wanted to touch on those, not because anything that was said was incorrect, but because we want to clarify some things since we didn't have time to do that during the interview.
It was a good opportunity to go even deeper into a great conversation. I think you did a wonderful job. Great points and good wrap up. Okay, we wanted to talk about Fort Stewart in Georgia. There was another attack by somebody who went to a gun-free zone to make sure that the people that he shot were unarmed. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it. And then I wanted to make a proposal. I wanted to talk about a proposal that I had in mind. Now, for those who don't know, this is an Army base about 40 miles from Savannah. Fort Stewart is actually the largest Army post east of the Mississippi. It's home to thousands of soldiers assigned to the Army's 3rd Infantry Division. Now, here's what happened. At around 10:55, the shooting occurs on base. It's later explained by officials that a soldier shot his co-workers, who were also fellow soldiers, and nearby soldiers immediately tackle the shooter and subdue him before law enforcement arrives. 10:56, law enforcement is dispatched for a possible shooting in the 2nd Armored Brigade combat. 11:04, Fort Stewart is locked down due to the shooting threat. At 11:09, emergency medical personnel are dispatched. At 11:35, the shooter is apprehended and in custody. Now we're up to 12:10. So this is more than an hour after. 12:10, Fort Stewart lifted the lockdown of the main containment area, but the 2nd Armored Brigade complex, which is located about 3 miles down the highway, remains locked down. The scene is no longer considered an active incident. 12:44, so within 2 hours, President Donald Trump is briefed on the situation, and the White House is monitoring, according to their press secretary. So it's been investigated. Again, it's yet another situation where a gun-free zone, which is a military base, becomes the site of an attempted mass murder, and people were hurt. And you had a bunch of brave soldiers who, unarmed, went and tackled this guy. And I don't know a whole lot there wasn't a lot reported on exactly what the situation was. Were they in formation? Were they at their desks? Were they walking around? What exactly were they doing? But it plays into the fact that well over 90%, in fact, I've seen numbers that are well over 95% of mass shootings, what are considered mass shootings, happen in what are considered gun-free zones. And a military base is definitely considered a gun-free zone. Here's my thought, Dakota. A few years ago, in fact, it was during the Obama administration, they passed a law federally that said, hey, look, if you're in national park, if you're federal land, then your concealed carry laws have to mimic the host state is the term they use. So in other words, if you go to, for example, Zion, right? It's a national park in Utah. Then the concealed carry laws mimic Utah's concealed carry laws because it's located in the state of Utah. So if you can carry in Utah legally, then you can carry in Zion. And they did this for all federal parks, all federal national parks, which has worked enormously well.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up, I grew up in a military family. We only lived on base for 4 years. The base was Pearl Harbor. I was actually Makalapa, which is a part of Pearl Harbor. Pretty big base. But I don't know how many people realize that a base isn't just, where tanks and, whatever training happens. I mean, there's a lot going on a military base. There's housing, there are grocery stores, there are parks, there are rec centers. It's a whole city, within a city usually, or beside a city. Military dependents may or may not live on the base. They might live off the base, but they still go to the commissary, which is their grocery store. They still go to the post exchange, which is kind of their Walmart, because they get benefits. Things are sold for, less money, and sometimes they don't have to pay sales tax and that sort of thing. So it's a huge benefit for a military family, which, military pay is okay, but still there's a lot of sacrifice when you're a dependent, when you're serving in the military. And so this is a benefit. Currently, though, if you live off base or if you live on base, you can't carry on the base. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to go get my car fixed, at the gas station and mechanic on base, I'm going to go do my grocery shopping at the commissary, or I'm going to go buy, clothes or whatever, back to school items. Or if you're just going to go to a restaurant, a rec center, anything that you're going to go do on base, you have to decide to disarm yourself. And a step further, you can't even bring that gun with you.
Right.
So it's not like you can stop, disarm right outside of the base, bring that, put it in a locked container. Now you might not get caught, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, adhering
it's illegal.
to law.
It's a big potential big charge.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So my suggestion, my thought, and when I've actually talked to, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I've actually talked to a congressman about, is they should do the same thing they did for federal parks. They should say, hey, whatever military base, across the nation, they should adopt the carry standards, laws, procedures, regulations of their host state. Now, that doesn't mean that you can now carry in a sensitive area like, on the flight line of an Air Force base.
Right.
It doesn't mean that while you're in formation and you're a sergeant or a chief or whatever, that you're allowed to carry no matter what your commanding officer says. That's not what this means. This means that if you live on base, when you're off duty, you can carry and protect yourself and your family just like you do on the outside world. And you're live off base and you're going on base to go to the beach or, go to the, buy food or whatever, you can defend yourself just like you do when you're off base. This means that forts and Navy bases and military bases of all kind will no longer be gun-free zones, and soldiers and airmen and sailors and Marines will no longer be sitting ducks, which is what they are right now.
Yeah.
And I really truly believe that it is for, a military facility is a government facility, and for the government to say, hey, you can't exercise your Second Amendment rights here, is as against the Second Amendment as it gets. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that proposal for sure. I think that's a good idea. I think, yet again, another example of the government requiring us to disarm and then not doing their due diligence to keep us safe. You can't tell me I can't have a gun and I can't protect myself, and then also you're not going to protect me and you're going to let a gunman come in and shoot at me. Like that. That's not, I opt out of those situations as much as I can because it's so offensive to me. But if we are going to allow good guys to carry guns, bad guys are going to be deterred. That works. We know that works. That's like scientifically proven, right? We have the studies to show it. That works. If good guys can have guns, then bad guys don't want to shoot up those places. So we could give them a very easy way of being safer without really changing very much at all. Just adopt the state law. That makes Total sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And we can point to these national parks, hey, this already works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, we're not taking any power away from a commanding officer. We're not putting soldiers in more danger. I think there's this thought that soldiers and military personnel in general are just walking around with their M16s or their M4s or whatever, and it's just simply not the case. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that are left completely unarmed. You have to go through, not in every military facility, but you usually have to go through a checkpoint, but they don't search you. It's not like you get wanded down, or, it's not a metal detector like in an airplane or anything like that. So there really is, they're just sending them in to, be fish in a barrel. I mean, it really, truly, they're just saying, hey, law-abiding citizens, we want to make sure that you're unarmed so that if criminals come, you're completely and totally defenseless. Yeah. But we have this delusion of safety because we're a military base, and But what are you going to do? It's not like there are tanks just driving around waiting for mass murders. Anyway, I just don't think there's any reasonable defense for the idea of forcing bases to adopt the carry policies of their host state. And it's something I'm going to start talking even more about to people that can do something about it. And I hope one day we'll be able to come on Gun Owners Radio and say, hey, you know what? We changed federal policy and we made a lot of patriotic Americans and their families even safer. So there you go. That's my... That's our show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to like and share. Make sure that we're not a best-kept secret. Tell everybody you know about Gun Owners Radio. Help us grow. Big thanks to Alicia, Dakota, Rich, Michael from Cargo, and, of course, Adam from SAF. Thank you. See you next week.